Warning: host's life value remains for 10 minutes. Please immediately consume 100,000 yuan for your brother Lin Hao, or the system will initiate termination. As the frigid mechanical voice reverberated in my mind, my inept brother Lin Hao was pointing a finger at my nose, arrogantly shouting, "I don't care. Lin Wan, you must sell the house today to pay off my debts. Otherwise, I'll have them smash everything here." Behind him stood two burly debt collectors adorned with elaborate tattoos, their faces twisted with malice as they scrutinized my modest apartment. And behind the collectors were my parents, who shrank back, unable to meet my gaze, yet desperately signaling me with their eyes to concede. What a ludicrous scene it was. They resembled vultures drawn to the scent of blood, and I was the carcass destined to be devoured. This was the sanctuary I had fought tooth and nail to secure. After 5 years post-graduation, I toiled at 3 jobs daily, subsisting on the most inexpensive instant meals, scrimping every last copper coin until I finally managed to scrape together the down payment and escape that suffocating household. Here, I breathed the only air of freedom. Now, they sought to obliterate it, all for the sake of my hopelessly inept brother. Lin Hao, a 22-year-old vagabond, possesses but a singular skill: soliciting money from others. His only passion lies in gambling. Since he turned 18, I have been relentlessly repaying his debts, which have escalated from mere thousands to tens of thousands, and now he audaciously demands 500,000. 8 minutes of life remaining. The system's countdown resonates like a death knell, echoing in my ears with each tick. Ignoring the warnings in my mind, I cast my gaze solely upon my parents.
Dad. Mom.
My voice trembles with hoarseness. Is this truly what you mean? My mother evades my stare, her eyes averted as she fiddles with the hem of her garment, mumbling incoherently, "Wanwan's, he's your only brother. As his sister, please help him. This is the last time." Again with the last time. Meanwhile, my father turns his head away in silence, his stance unmistakably clear. At that moment, my heart shattered entirely. The final vestiges of familial hope crumbled to dust.
Fine.
I utter a single word softly. A triumphant grin spreads across Lin Hao's face, mistaking my acquiescence for compliance. "You're wise. Hurry, call the agent now." I disregard him, silently retreating into the storage room adjacent to the living room. "What are you doing? Planning to run?" Lin Hao barks, suspicion lacing his voice. I remain silent. The storage room is cluttered with odds and ends. I push aside an old box and discover a metallic baseball bat gleaming coldly in the corner. I had purchased it for self-defense. Gripping it tightly, I step back into the living room. 3 minutes of life remaining. As I emerge wielding the bat, the individuals in the living room are momentarily stunned. Lin Hao's smile falters, contorting into mockery. "What? Wanwan, you intend to strike? Dare to touch me and see what happens." I gaze at his bloated, pallid face, a product of sleepless nights spent on gambling and indulgence, and at his eyes, filled with greed and folly. A profound calm envelopes me. 1 minute of life remaining. Host's life functions are deteriorating. I feel my heart gripped by an unseen hand, breath growing labored. Now is the moment. Without granting him further time to react, I swing my arm vigorously, channeling all my weight into the cold metal, and strike down upon his left knee, where he had been most vociferous. Crack. A sound reminiscent of shattering bones reverberates throughout the living room. Time seems to freeze. Everyone is rendered speechless by this sudden turn of events. In the next heartbeat, Lin Hao's contorted face erupts into a wail akin to that of a slaughtered pig.
Ah.
My leg! My leg! Wanwan, you lunatic! He collapses to the floor, writhing in agony, cold sweat soaking his clothes. The two debt collectors stand in shock. They have encountered demands for money before, but never for a life. My mother emits a piercing scream, nearly fainting from the horror. My father points at me, his lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. I discard the bat, the metallic clatter echoing with finality. I retrieve my phone, ignoring their reactions, and calmly dial the emergency services. "Hello, this is Building A, Unit 701 in Xingfili Community. My brother has a broken leg. The situation is critical." I pause, observing Lin Hao still howling on the ground, and in a voice that brooks no dissent, I add, "I request the most expensive treatment at St. Hart Private Hospital in the city, with the best foreign orthopedic specialist and a top-tier VIP single room. Money is no object. Ensure the finest medicine and the best service. Upon hanging up, the system alert in my mind finally shifts, detecting substantial medical expenditure for Lin Hao. Confirmation in progress.
Ding.
Task of spending 100,000 yuan completed. Host's vital signs restored to normal. I exhale deeply, feeling a resurgence of life. I approach Lin Hao, who is still convulsing on the floor, crouching down to meet his gaze filled with resentment and fear, and whisper in a tone only we can hear, "The system compels me to spend money on you. If I do not, I shall perish." You see, medical expenses are also consumption. From this day forth, every penny you spend on food, clothing, shelter, and transportation will bear my label. If you wish to survive, lie still and allow your leg to heal. We will discuss how to utilize the remaining 400,000 later. 2. When the ambulance arrived with a shrill wail, my parents, as if awakening from a dream, finally erupted.
Wan.
Have you lost your mind? You're going to kill your brother. My mother lunged at me, attempting to tear at my hair, but I sidestepped her with a swift motion. She stumbled, collapsing to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, pounding her thigh and cursing. How could I have birthed such a venomous daughter? That is your own brother. How could you do this? My father, trembling with rage, pointed a finger at me, his face flushed with indignation. Beast. You are a beast. Hurry and apologize to your brother. Go and apologize to him. The brother he referred to was the two dazed debt collectors. They, too, snapped back to reality, watching as Lin Hao was carried away on a stretcher by medical personnel. One of the lead collectors spat vehemently. Damn it. You've got guts. 50,000. Not a penny less. The monk can run, but the temple cannot. We are watching you. With that, they followed the ambulance, perhaps fearing we might flee. I observed this all with a cool detachment, feeling no turbulence within. Apologize? Why should I apologize? I saved myself and, temporarily, Lin Hao. He now lies en route to the city's most prestigious hospital, about to receive exorbitant medical care that ordinary individuals could only dream of. Is this not a form of karmic reward? Have you cried enough? I look down at my mother, who sits on the ground, throwing a tantrum. Once you've finished, rise and accompany me to the hospital to pay for your precious son. I won't go. I don't want a daughter like you. My mother cries out. Suit yourself. I shrug, taking my wallet and keys. But I must remind you, the deposit at St. Heart Hospital is 200,000. If you don't go, Lin Hao might find himself thrown out of his hospital bed tonight. With that, I no longer heed them and stride out the door. I know they will follow. For the sake of their precious son, they would do anything. Indeed, as I reached the ground floor, they stumbled after me, my mother's face still streaked with tears, her gaze fixed on me as if I were a mortal enemy. St. Heart Hospital lives up to its reputation as the city's premier private medical facility. With an ambience rivaling that of a five-star hotel, the scent of antiseptic is absent, replaced by a subtle fragrance. The nurses, all wearing smiles, speak softly. Lin Hao was rushed directly into the emergency operating room. I was informed that the lead surgeon was Professor Hans, a distinguished orthopedic expert from Germany. The fee for his services alone starts in the six figures. I was thoroughly satisfied. At the billing counter, I emotionlessly swiped my card for the 200,000 deposit. Watching the POS machine churn out a lengthy receipt, I felt as though I was not merely spending money, but purchasing a life. My parents trailed behind me, eyes wide as they witnessed me effortlessly part with 200,000, their expressions a blend of shock, anguish, and above all, greed. Wanwans, where did you acquire such a sum? My mother inquired cautiously, inching closer to me. Previously, I had been perceived as a mere pauper, barely scraping by to meet mortgage payments. What concern is it of yours? I shot her a cold glance. Her complexion turned a shade of deep crimson, yet faced with the black card in my hand, she ultimately refrained from protesting. The surgery lasted 3 hours. When Lin Hao emerged, his left leg encased in thick plaster, suspended in midair, he was still under anesthesia, slumbering like a dead pig. He was assigned to a luxurious VIP room on the top floor, a single-occupancy suite complete with a parlor and a private bathroom, offering the most breathtaking river view the city had to offer. The daily cost of the room alone was a 4-digit figure. I accompanied the nurse to ensure everything was in order, and without hesitation, I arranged for 2 top-tier 24-hour caregivers, one for the day shift and another for the night. The head nurse smiled as she assured me that both caregivers were seasoned professionals who would attend to Mr. Lin Hao with meticulous care, encompassing his diet, daily activities, bodily functions, and preventing any attempts at escape. I nodded, approaching the most robust-looking caregiver, extracting 2,000 yuan in cash from my wallet, and handing it to him. "Sir, please bear with me," I murmured. "Aside from the doctors and nurses, anyone, including my parents, who wishes to see him privately or take him away must first contact me. All his requests, whether it be for food or to use his phone, require my approval. If he misbehaves or refuses to cooperate, do not hesitate to restrain him. I will take full responsibility for any consequences." The caregiver appeared momentarily stunned before discreetly accepting the money and signaling an acknowledgement with an okay gesture. Having completed this arrangement, I turned to face my parents, who were already wide-eyed in disbelief. "Rest assured, he won't die," I stated, as if discussing an unrelated matter.
You may go now. Lin Wan, what do you mean by this?
"You are imprisoning your brother." My father finally could no longer contain his outrage, shouting at me. "Imprisoning?" I chuckled softly. "Father, take a good look. This is the finest ward in the city, staffed with the most professional caregivers. Here, he will receive care fit for a monarch. I am saving him, as well as educating him." I continued. "From this day forth, I will cover all of Lin Hao's expenses. However, if he wishes to spend even a single cent, it must first receive my approval. Should you wish to visit, you are welcome. But if you intend to orchestrate any schemes or incite him to act against me, do not blame me if I take measures that involve seizing your pensions as well." My words pierced their hearts like icy daggers. They looked at me, their eyes brimming with fear and unfamiliarity. They finally realized that their daughter, the Lin Wan who had been subjected to their whims for over 20 years, was no more. She had perished this very morning beneath the swing of a baseball bat. Lin Hao awoke the following noon. When I arrived at the hospital, he was lying in bed, berating the day shift caregiver. "My phone."
Give me my phone.
"I want to make a call." "Mr. Lin, I apologize, but Miss Lin has instructed that you require rest and cannot use electronic devices," the caregiver replied, his expression as impassive as a wall. "I command you to bring it to me. How dare you, a mere servant, dictate to me?" Lin Hao struggled to sit up, but the movement aggravated his injury, causing him to grimace in pain. "Try cursing again," I said as I stepped through the door, my gaze icy. Upon seeing me, Lin Hao was momentarily taken aback, but his resentment and fury erupted like a volcano.
Lin Wan,
"You vile creature! You dare break my leg! I will kill you! I will report you to the police!" he bellowed, his face contorted with rage. "Report me?" I pulled a chair closer and sat down leisurely. "That would be interesting. When the police arrive, how do you plan to explain? Will you tell them you brought 2 thugs to your sister's house to coerce her into selling her home to pay off your gambling debts, only to be injured in a legitimate act of self-defense? Who do you think they will believe?
Who do you think they will arrest?"
His curses caught in his throat. Though he was foolish, he was not entirely dim-witted. He understood that escalating this matter to the police would yield no benefit for him.
"What do you want from me?"
he inquired, his bravado faltering. "I desire nothing," I said, retrieving an apple from my bag and slowly peeling it with a knife. "I am here to treat you. Look at this splendid environment and the expertise of the doctors.
This is all funded by me. Ding.
The system has detected that the host is providing high-quality fruit to Brother Lin Hao, increasing task completion rate. The system's notification brought me a sense of delight. I do not need your insincere kindness. I cannot stand being confined here for a day." Lin Hao shouted in frustration. "That is not up to you," I replied, slicing the apple into bite-sized pieces and offering a piece to him with a toothpick. "Open wide. I won't eat." He stubbornly turned his head away. "Suit yourself." I withdrew my hand and ate a piece myself. After all, the nutritional meals here were administered via intravenous injection, so he wouldn't starve, his mouth might just feel a bit lonely. As I finished speaking, the nurse entered with a food cart, expertly hanging a bag of yellow nutritional fluid on his arm. Lin Hao watched the bag with a mix of green and pallor on his face. Glancing back at the sweet apple in my hand, I knew that with a spoiled brat like him, a gentle approach was required. I needed to gradually dismantle his willpower psychologically. "Lin Wan, what exactly do you want? What about the 500,000? Those loan sharks will not let me off." He finally broached the serious matter. Rest assured, they will not seek you out for the time being, I said calmly. I have already contacted their leader. I informed him that you are receiving the most expensive treatment here, and your daily expenses are equivalent to several days' worth of their interest. Once your leg is healed, I will repay them in full, with interest. I added, my gaze cold as I smiled. As for how I will recover that sum, it will depend on your behavior. In the days that followed, I ensured that Lin Hao experienced the essence of a gilded cage. He resided in a room that cost a fortune, receiving daily consultations from specialists and enjoying the finest of everything. Yet simultaneously, he lost all semblance of freedom. No phone, no computer, no television. His daily life was meticulously managed by the caregivers. Rise at 8, lunch at noon, rehabilitation training at 3, and lights out at 9. If he wished for a snack, he had to submit a request for my approval. Visits from our parents were permissible, but strictly monitored by the caregivers. My parents came several times, each visit marked by tears and accusations of my being a heartless wretch, attempting to sneak Lin Hao a phone or some cash. Yet, without fail, the caregiver confiscated everything on the spot. After several such encounters, I informed the hospital security that their visitation rights were to be temporarily revoked, citing disruption to the patient's recovery. Lin Hao became a complete island unto himself. His temperament shifted from initial rage and curses to frustration, repression, and ultimately, a suffocating silence following a fit of impotent fury. He began to withdraw, lying in bed all day with a vacant stare fixed on the ceiling. I recognized that the first phase of treatment was beginning to yield results. One day, I arrived for my usual visit. Today's objective was to spend 200,000. I approached directly. His eyes flickered, finally showing some reaction. What do you want?
His voice was hoarse and dry.
I am hiring a psychologist for you, I smiled. I believe your mental state has been rather poor lately, exhibiting signs of depression. The psychological intervention at Sacred Heart Hospital is renowned across the nation, with each session costing 50,000. You are the one with a problem. I am fine, he retorted, agitated. You are not, I replied, my smile fading as I spoke deliberately. Not only are you unwell, but your condition is severe. This affliction is known as terminal entitlement syndrome. The malignant cells of entitlement have infiltrated your mind and limbs, transforming you into a parasitic leech. But fear not, dear brother, for I have the means. I continued, today, we shall commence by excising your decayed social circle. I will hire a private investigator to track down those so-called friends of yours, those who led you into casinos and lent you money at exorbitant rates. One by one, I will bring them to light. Then, I will use this 200,000 to deliver them a parting gift. I watched as his eyes widened in terror, satisfied with the effect of my words. A farewell gift that will ensure they never dare to show their faces before you again. The private investigator I hired was remarkably efficient. Within a mere 24 hours, a comprehensive dossier materialized in my inbox. It meticulously catalogued Lin Hao's social circle over the past few years, comprising a cadre of societal drifters, with a certain gambling intermediary known as Brother Leopard at the helm. This Brother Leopard had, step by step, lured Lin Hao from a petty thief into a gambler ensnared by a debt of 500,000. The dossier even contained evidence of their elaborate schemes to exploit Lin Hao's naivety for monetary gain. As I perused the documents, my gaze grew increasingly icy. I had once perceived Lin Hao as merely foolish. However, it now appeared that he was simultaneously foolish, malevolent, and blind. I refrained from confronting these individuals immediately. When dealing with ruffians, employing their own tactics proves most efficacious. I reached out to the head of a debt collection agency, a man known as Brother Long, the very same who had previously dispatched 2 tattooed thugs to my residence. I arranged to meet him at an upscale tea house. Upon his arrival, he was accompanied solely by a driver, clad in an unbranded traditional Chinese jacket and casually twirling a gleaming string of walnuts in his hands, exuding an air of a cultured businessman. Yet, the malice lurking in his eyes was unmistakable. Miss Lin, truly remarkable for one so young, he greeted, his voice resonating. Brother Long, you flatter me. Let us dispense with pleasantries, I replied, pouring him a cup of tea. To the point, my brother Lin Hao owes you 500,000, which I shall repay. However, not at this moment. Oh? He raised an eyebrow. Is Miss Lin attempting to default? Not at all, I shook my head. I wish to discuss a far more significant venture with you. I slid the dossier provided by the private investigator across the table toward him. My brother is somewhat dim-witted and often falls prey to exploitation. This 500,000 debt is a direct result of that. Brother Long began to sift through the pages, his expression remaining inscrutable, though the movement of his walnut-twirling hand noticeably slowed. This Brother Leopard, is he one of your competitors? I inquired. Not at all, Brother Long replied, dismissively setting the dossier aside. We are a licensed financial firm. They are merely inconsequential vermin. Then this will be straightforward. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. I require your assistance in several matters. First, settle my brother's debt of 500,000, of course, in your customary manner. His eyes brightened momentarily. Secondly, I continued, I need you to educate the individuals listed, particularly Brother Leopard. I wish for them to maintain a considerable distance from my brother, preferably as far as possible. Lastly, and most crucially, I locked eyes with him, articulating each word with precision. I need you to take my brother under your wing. From now on, he will be your charge. I shall remit a monthly stipend of 50,000 for his upkeep. Brother Long was utterly taken aback. His walnut-twirling hand halted midair. Throughout his years, he had encountered those who sold their offspring. But this was the first time he had met a sister willing to pay to cast her own brother into the jaws of a wolf. What do you mean by that, Miss Lin? He asked, uncertainty creeping into his voice. The meaning is quite simple. I reclined against my chair. My brother is beyond redemption. I neither wish to manage him, nor can I. Yet, as a dutiful child, he deserves a path forward. I believe that aligning with you offers him a promising future. With your extensive operations, you must be in need of a lackey to fetch tea and tidy up. No? Though he may be dim, his legs remain spry.
Oh.
And once he recovers from his injury, 50,000 a month. Use it as you see fit. You may provide him a salary, secure insurance for him, or ensure he is well fed. I have but one stipulation. He must live and comprehend the essence of true discipline. The tea room fell into an extended silence, punctuated only by the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. Brother Long scrutinized me as if seeking a hint of jest upon my visage. Yet I offered none. My countenance was as placid as still water. At length, he erupted into laughter. Ha ha ha. How intriguing. Truly fascinating. He thumped his thigh. Miss Lin, I am most grateful for your acquaintance. This matter shall be resolved. The debt of 500,000 will be waived. I assure you within 3 days. Brother Leopard will vanish from this city. As for your brother, he mused, his eyes glinting with excitement, rest assured, I am in need of a protege. I shall cultivate him diligently. I understood precisely what his notion of cultivation entailed. But what of it? This was the path Lin Hao had chosen for himself. I was merely facilitating his journey by finding him a more skilled mentor. Beep. Detection of long-term investment in the future development of host's Brother Lin Hao confirmed. Consumption acknowledged. Task complete. Host's life value limit increased by 10. As I exited the tea house, darkness had enveloped the city. The neon lights blurred into a kaleidoscope of colors before my eyes. I retrieved my phone and dialed my father's number. Lin Wan, you remember how to call back? How is your brother? When will you release him? The moment the call connected, a barrage of questions ensued. He cannot come back, I replied coolly. What do you mean? I found him a new home. I recounted a simplified version of events to my parents. I explained that to settle Lin Hao's debts, I had collateralized him with an influential figure in the underworld. Henceforth, Lin Hao would work for this individual, and I would remit a monthly sum for his sustenance. On the other end of the line, my parents unleashed a torrent of frenzied shouts and curses, their voices tinged with disbelief. They condemned me for being heartless and accused me of pushing my own brother into the abyss. I refrained from arguing or hanging up, listening in silence until their voices grew hoarse from indignation. Only then did I speak. Are you finished berating me? If so, allow me a moment to speak. First, this path was chosen by him. Had it not been for your incessant coddling over the years, had it not been for his insatiable demands, he would not have arrived at this juncture. You are the true architects of his downfall. Secondly, the 50,000 I expend monthly for his maintenance is not to afford him luxury. It is to instill discipline and reform him. What Brother Long represents is a treacherous gray area. For a worthless individual like Lin Hao, every moment spent there is torment. This I assure you. is the life sentence I am granting him. Lastly, and most crucially, my voice turned frigid. If you wish to see him again, if you desire him to remain alive, you must remain silent. Do not contact the authorities or stir trouble with Brother Long, otherwise I cannot guarantee that he will not meet with a fatal accident. With that, I ended the call. I recognized the cruelty of my words. However, to manage my oblivious parents, threatening their most treasured son's life proved the most effective strategy. From that moment on, my world grew tranquil. My parents ceased all attempts to contact me. Lin Hao vanished from St. Heart Hospital as if he had never existed. Occasionally, I would receive updates from Brother Long regarding Lin Hao's condition. Miss Lin, your brother accidentally damaged a customer's rearview mirror while washing a car today. I had him clean every restroom in the vehicle as punishment. Miss Lin, your brother attempted to escape. I had to intervene most forcefully. Medical expenses have been deducted from that 500,000. Miss Lin, your brother has been quite obedient recently, learning to serve the older brothers with cigarettes and tea. He is making progress. Each time, I responded with a calm acknowledgement. I never once visited him. I had no desire to know what he looked like anymore. In my heart, the brother named Lin Hao had perished. What remained was merely a human pet, financed for the sake of fulfilling my system's tasks. Meanwhile, I seized this rare tranquility to begin sculpting my own life. The daily monetary demands of the system continued to escalate. From the initial sums of 100,000 and 200,000, escalating to later amounts of 500,000 and 1 million. Merely providing Lin Hao with child support has gradually become insufficient. I needed to discover a new, more efficient means of expenditure. Thus, I turned my gaze towards the realm of commerce. The directive to spend on my brother Lin Hao harbored numerous exploitable loopholes. Who decrees that expenditure must solely translate to unadulterated outlay. I established a company, with Lin Hao's name as the legal representative. All shares of the company were registered under his name. The startup capital was entirely injected by me, while I served as the sole executive director, wielding 100% decision-making power. The company's inaugural venture was an acquisition. I procured a nearly bankrupt live streaming platform, subsequently funneling vast sums of money into it under Lin Hao's name. I offered exorbitant signing bonuses to lure the top gaming streamers, organized esports tournaments with prizes reaching tens of millions, and secured the rights to countless popular films and television series, which I then streamed for free on the platform. Within a mere 3 months, this once moribund live streaming platform experienced a meteoric rise, transforming into a dark horse of the industry. Daily billions flowed from my accounts, morphing into the platform's traffic and data. In the system's assessment, all of this was categorized as investments in Lin Hao's enterprise. Each time I beheld the astronomical figures of expenditures in the company account, the system's cold notification echoed in my mind. Ding! Spent 5 million for Brother Lin Hao. Task completed.
Ding.
Spent 10 million for Brother Lin Hao. Task completed. Leveraging this loophole, I not only effortlessly accomplished the system's tasks but also unexpectedly constructed my own commercial empire. I was no longer the white-collar worker residing in a modest apartment, fretting over daily survival. I emerged as the enigmatic and lavishly generous General Lin within the capital sphere. No one knew the origins of my wealth. They only discerned that my vast entertainment enterprise was a gift to my beloved brother Lin Hao. The name Lin Hao transformed into a legend within the circle, as everyone believed he was a super-wealthy second-generation heir, spoiled by an adoring sister, shrouded in mystery. Only I understood that at this moment, he might be in some dimly lit basement, gnawing on moldy buns, contemplating how best to curry favor with his new elder brother. Life continued in this unremarkable manner. Under my stewardship, the vast entertainment enterprise expanded exponentially, diversifying from a singular live streaming platform into numerous fields such as film investment, artist management, and game development. My daily routine involved sitting in my office on the top floor of a downtown skyscraper, pondering how to expend the system-designated astronomical sums. Should I acquire a film company or sign a few rising stars? It was a peculiar sensation. Although I was ostensibly working for the system, I embodied the persona of a domineering CEO. At times, I even experienced an illusion, as though that frigid system were my true employer, and Lin Hao merely a pawn dispatched to monitor my actions. One day, my secretary knocked and entered, presenting me with a document. General Lin, This is a film project that the company plans to invest in next month. Please take a look. I accepted it and casually flipped through the pages. It was a low-budget art film, with both the director and actors being newcomers, and the script appeared rather unremarkable. Why would such a project be submitted to me? I furrowed my brow. Given the current scale of vast entertainment, we were investing in major commercial productions. It was recommended by your parents, the secretary stated hesitantly. They said the producer of this film is your distant uncle. My hand froze. Parents. Those two words had not graced my ears in a long time. Ever since I sent Lin Hao away, they had vanished from my life, never reaching out again. I had thought they had completely given up on me. Yet, unexpectedly, they were still scheming, attempting to reap benefits from me in a different guise. Not seeing them, I declared, tossing the document back onto the table.
I have no time.
However, they were already downstairs, the secretary quietly informed me, adding that they had brought many people along, claiming to be my relatives, brandishing a banner stating that if I did not meet them, they would. What? Jump from the building? I laughed in anger. Truly remarkable. My parents never failed to astonish me with their audacity. I rose from my seat and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window.
Indeed.
A crowd had gathered in the plaza below the office building. They held a white banner, emblazoned with glaring red characters. Heartless CEO Lin Wan forces her biological parents to death. This is intolerable. A considerable number of onlookers had assembled, and even journalists seemed to be snapping photos. General Lin, should we call security? My secretary asked nervously. No need, I replied, turning back with a calm demeanor. Let them come up. Bring them to conference room 3. I am intrigued to see what new tricks they might have up their sleeves. 10 minutes later, I found myself in conference room 3, facing my overwhelming entourage of relatives. Leading them were, of course, my parents. They appeared older and more haggard, yet the greed and scheming in their eyes remained undiminished. Behind them trailed a throng of distant cousins, whom I had only seen during the New Year festivities. At that moment, each bore a countenance filled with the solemnity of advocating for the people and the indignation of injustice.
Lin Wan.
You unfilial daughter. You still know to come out and see us. My mother immediately launched into wails upon seeing me. Your brother has suffered so terribly because of you. Now that you have become successful and a big boss, you no longer acknowledge us, your impoverished relatives, do you? My father chimed in with accusations. Everyone, let us discuss this in another place, I interjected, disregarding their complaints, instead donning a warm commercial smile for my relatives. I led them to the company cafeteria. It was lunchtime, and the cafeteria buzzed with activity. I instructed the kitchen to prepare the most lavish buffet and then addressed my relatives, esteemed elders. Thank you for making the long journey. Please enjoy your meal, and once you are satisfied, we can discuss matters at length. The relatives, who had initially been so indignant, were taken aback by the sumptuous spread before them. Having never encountered such a display, they promptly cast aside their grievances and rushed forward to indulge. My parents were equally bewildered, standing in place, unsure of how to react. I approached them with a glass of red wine in hand. Didn't you want me to invest? I shook the glass. That's fine, but I have conditions. What conditions? My father asked warily. Very simple. I indicated toward the employees in the cafeteria, relishing their meals. Do you see them? They are my employees, the foundation of my enterprise. And you, I shifted my gaze. My expression turning frigid, are merely parasites seeking to benefit from me. Thus, my condition was articulated clearly. From today onward, you and those you brought along shall work in my company. I will offer you the highest salaries in the city, along with the best benefits. However, you must earn them through your labor. You may choose any position, cleaning toilets, washing dishes, serving as security, or working at the front desk. Whenever you manage to earn enough through your own efforts to cover the investment for that film, I will invest in you. Otherwise, you shall remain here as lifelong janitors.
Ding.
The host has been detected to provide a multitude of employment opportunities for relatives, thereby improving their livelihoods, which falls under the broader category of supporting family. Judgment passed. I gazed at the instant pallor that washed over my parents' faces and smiled. You wish to obtain money from me? Very well. Exchange it with your dignity and sweat. My parents and those relatives ultimately dared not accept my job offer. They indulged in a sumptuous meal at the company cafeteria and then slinked away in defeat. The banner hanging downstairs soon became a subject of jest in the city's financial section the following day. How Han Entertainment's CEO deftly resolves a familial crisis with a buffet meal. I became known as the composed, astute, and somewhat scheming businesswoman in the eyes of others. Yet, none were aware that I was merely fulfilling the familial assignment set by the system in a more sophisticated manner. This incident served as a wake-up call. Although I had sent Lin Hao away, the ties with my original family could not be entirely severed. As long as I continued to spend, they would pounce upon me like cats scenting blood, time and again. It was futile to block them. The only solution was to divert them. I needed to find them something to occupy their time, so they would lack the energy to pester me. Thus, I established the Lin Family Charity Fund in Lin Hao's name. The foundation's purpose was to assist all distant relatives bearing the Lin surname. Wishing to start a business? The foundation offers you interest-free loans. Aspiring to pursue education? The foundation covers all your tuition and living expenses. Falling ill? The foundation connects you with the finest hospitals and doctors. The sole condition was that all beneficiaries must sign an agreement. The content of the agreement was straightforward. Upon receiving the funds, they must sever all private ties with Lin Wan and Lin Wan's parents. Henceforth, our relationship would be strictly that of benefactor and beneficiary, devoid of any further familial demands. This strategy proved remarkably effective. My impoverished relatives, caught between the intangible bonds of kinship and the tangible allure of money, unhesitatingly chose the latter. They lined up at the foundation to collect their funds, contentedly signing the severance agreement, thus disappearing entirely from my world. My parents were appointed as the honorary presidents of this foundation. Their daily tasks consisted of sitting in an opulent office, welcoming relatives who came to collect money, basking in their praises, and relishing the vanity of being lauded. I granted them unparalleled prestige, while stripping them of all substance. They could no longer wield familial ties as leverage against me, for I had effectively purchased this cheap affection with money.
Ding.
The host has resolved the troubles of the original family by establishing a charity fund, creating a serene environment for Lin Hao's growth. Consumption judgment passed. I found a certain irony in this system notification. A tranquil environment for Lin Hao's growth? At this very moment, he was likely undergoing an indoctrination of rules in some dark corner under the tutelage of Long Ge. Yet, perhaps this was for the best. One physically transformed, a group psychologically restrained. My world had finally achieved a profound tranquility. I could now devote all my energy to my career, or rather, to this ceaseless game of consumption with the system. The expansion of How Han Entertainment was meteoric. The films we invested in became annual box office champions. The artists we signed ascended to the status of top-tier celebrities. The games we developed captivated audiences worldwide. Lin Hao's name became an undeniable commercial symbol of the era. Everyone proclaimed him a favored child of fortune. Meanwhile, I, Lin Wan, stood as the most enigmatic and powerful strategist behind him. I gradually acclimated to this life. Each day, I awoke in a vast office, gazing out of the expansive floor-to-ceiling windows at the city sprawled below like a colossal steel beast. My schedule was meticulously organized by my secretary down to the minute. I met with elite figures from various industries, negotiating investment projects worth hundreds of millions. The distance between my current self and the person who once toiled for a down payment grew ever wider. So much so that at times, when I looked in the mirror, the woman staring back at me felt like a stranger. Adorned in bespoke suits, with a meticulously crafted visage. Her eyes lacked the youthful innocence and trepidation of yesteryear, replaced instead by composure, decisiveness, and a subtle hint of weariness. I realized I was being transformed into another kind of being by this monetary game. I had secured my survival, yet it seemed I was gradually losing my soul. Until one day, I received an unexpected call from Long Ge. His voice, for the first time, carried a note of gravity. "Miss Lin, there has been an incident. Your brother has killed someone." My mind momentarily went blank. Killed someone? Lin Hao? That worthless wretch who only dared to boast in front of me and would tremble at the sight of a collector? What on earth happened? I forced myself to regain composure, though my voice still trembled slightly. He had a conflict with a lackey over a trivial matter and resorted to a knife. Long Ge's tone was somber. The other party did not survive. Where is he? He has been detained by me. The matter is also under wraps. No one outside is aware. Longo paused. However, Miss Lin, this situation is somewhat troublesome. The deceased's family has connections. I understood. Longo implied that money might not suffice to smooth this over.
What do you want?
I inquired directly. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Miss Lin, your brother has been with me for almost 2 years. To be honest, he is a hopeless case. I've exhausted all means but cannot instill any discipline in him. At his core, he is a coward, bullying the weak and fearing the strong. And even when he gains an advantage, he plays the innocent. This murder was not due to any audacity on his part. I reviewed the surveillance. It was the other party who first brandished a knife to intimidate him, and he panicked, thrusting the knife blindly, ultimately striking a vital point. I knew you intended for him to face some hardships by leaving him with me, but this hardship may now lead to a death sentence. My heart sank. The system had tasked me with consuming for Lin Hao. If Lin Hao were to die, would this mission conclude? Would I be free? This thought, like a dark seed, instantaneously took root and flourished within me. Yet immediately after, the system's voice doused me with cold water.
Warning.
Life signs of the system-bound target Lin Hao are in jeopardy. Should the bound target perish, the system will automatically deem the host's mission a failure, resulting in obliteration. Emergency mission issued. Save Lin Hao. Mission requirements. Utilize all resources within 1 month to ensure Lin Hao is free from all legal sanctions and life-threatening dangers. Mission rewards. System malactivation. Mission failure. Obliteration. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes. Just as I suspected, Lin Hao and I were tethered together like grasshoppers on the same string. If he died, I would also perish. Longa, I picked up the phone again. My voice restored to calm. I will handle this matter. You need not do anything. Just ensure that Lin Hao remains safe for the next month. You want to protect him? Longa's tone was laced with surprise. I have no choice. After hanging up, I fell into contemplation. This situation was indeed quite precarious. The law was the foundational operating principle of society, and now I was about to challenge it. This has transcended the mere act of spending money. It demands resources, connections, and power, elements I have deliberately shunned over the past 2 years, aside from financial matters. I have always perceived myself as an outsider, a mere puppeteer in this grand game. I observe the world with a detached gaze, leveraging wealth to manipulate and transform it, yet I refrain from immersing myself deeply within its murky depths. However, I now find myself compelled to plunge into this most sordid quagmire. I opened my computer and summoned the file of the deceased. Zhang Wei, aged 25, a distant relative of a third-rate family. This family wields some influence in the city's gray areas. The trouble does not lie with the family itself, but rather with their apparent connections to a certain formidable individual whom I cannot afford to offend. My gaze settled upon the last page of the dossier. The deceased's aunt is the mistress of a significant figure in the city. I rubbed my temples, feeling a wave of headache wash over me. It seems that I am indeed about to engage in a grand game of strategy. I dialed my secretary's internal line. Arrange a meeting with someone for me. Who? Our company's foremost legal advisor, the man heralded as the undefeated legend of the legal realm. Lawyer Gu? My secretary's voice trembled slightly.
Yes.
However, Lin. He is semi-retired and rarely takes on cases. Moreover, his legal fees are exorbitant. I am aware. I gazed out the window at the city's nocturnal scenery, resembling a vast, twinkling web. Inform him that money is not an issue. I request that he take on a case that is destined to fail. I want him to employ every legal means at his disposal to secure my brother's incarceration. When Guyen entered my office, I was savoring a cup of Kopi Luwak. He appeared younger than I had anticipated, perhaps in his mid-30s, donning a well-tailored gray suit. Behind his gold-rimmed glasses, his eyes gleamed with the sharpness of a hawk. He is Guyen, a legendary lawyer who has achieved an impeccable record of 300 victories over the past decade. The cases he handles are either of the affluent or the infamous, starkly defined in black and white. It is said he can resurrect the deceased and transform ironclad cases into enigmas. President Lin, he extended his hand politely, his voice as calm and restrained as his demeanor. I shook his hand and gestured for him to take a seat. Lawyer Gu, my secretary has briefed you on my situation. Indeed. He nodded. I have reviewed the case file. Passionate homicide, with irrefutable evidence. The opposing party's family is adamant, demanding the death penalty. To be frank, There is little room for maneuvering in this case. I do not seek his exoneration, I replied. Guyen raised an eyebrow slightly. Then I failed to comprehend the purpose of President Lin's summons. I require you to defend him. I met his gaze, articulating each word deliberately. I want you to employ your entire legal acumen, utilizing all permissible avenues within the law to ensure his imprisonment. The professional smile faded from Gu Yan's face. He adjusted his glasses, and for the first time, genuine curiosity and scrutiny flickered in his eyes. Ms. Lin, are you certain you have not misspoken? He inquired. You are paying me a king's ransom, not to save him, but to ensure he is incarcerated? Correct? I affirmed with a nod, but not with a death sentence. I want him to live, to receive a prison term that is neither too long nor too short. For instance, 10 years? Gu Yan contemplated in silence. He is an astute individual. He immediately grasped my intent. A death sentence would benefit me not. Should Lin Hao die, the system would obliterate me. An acquittal is equally out of the question. It would infuriate the powerful forces behind the deceased's family, inviting unending retribution. Thus, the optimal outcome would be for him to reside securely within a state-protected environment, biding his time. Prison. What could be safer than that? President Lin, your proposition is audacious. After a prolonged pause, Gu Yan finally spoke. However, the execution is fraught with challenges. What are the challenges? The crux lies in persuading the judge and jury. Given the overwhelming evidence and the formidable background of the opposing party, any plea for leniency may be construed as a provocation of the law. Gu Yan articulated. We require a compelling rationale that would convince all parties to consider a reduced sentence. What sort of rationale? I inquired. For instance, Gu Yan's eyes flickered momentarily. To establish that he was in a state of mental instability at the time of the crime. Or to prove that he is a long-suffering victim of psychological abuse. My heart raced. I stared at Gu Yan, who was also gazing back at me. We both discerned a mutual understanding in each other's eyes. Are you suggesting? What I am suggesting, Ms. Lin, Gu Yan's lips curled into a knowing smile, is that over the next month, I may need to conduct frequent interviews with you and your family. I require an in-depth understanding of the poignant bond shared between you and your brother. I comprehended. Gu Yan's task was not merely legal defense, it was the crafting of a narrative. He intended to portray me as a pitiable sister, long subjugated, extorted, and even mentally dominated by my brother. Lin Hao's act of murder would then be framed as the culmination of his long-standing violent tendencies and psychological issues, exploding under specific circumstances. Thus, I would transition from a cold-hearted sister to a victim's relative, while Lin Hao would morph from an irredeemable gambler into a sympathetic mental health patient. This game is indeed played in the dirtiest of ways, yet I find it exhilarating.
Beep.
The host has engaged a premier legal team to save her brother Lin Hao. Expenditure approved.
Beep.
The host has devised a new public relations strategy for her brother Lin Hao's case. In the ensuing month, I became Gu Yan's exclusive client. We spent nearly every day together. He assumed the role of a masterful psychologist, guiding me to recollect the myriad moments from my childhood with Lin Hao. Those deliberately forgotten memories, fraught with favoritism, demands, and injustices, were meticulously unearthed, recorded, and refined into poignant narratives by his prodigious linguistic prowess. Simultaneously, I too contributed to this legal battle in my own manner. I harnessed the extensive media resources of Haohan Entertainment to generate buzz for the impending trial. A post titled "The Life Ruined by the Sister-Saving Demon," a sister's heart-wrenching accusation, went viral across major social platforms. In the first person, it recounted how a sister was transformed from an innocent girl into a heartless career woman by a bloodthirsty brother and a family that favored sons. The protagonist was unnamed, yet every detail pointed unmistakably to Lin Hao and myself. The public outcry was immediate. Public opinion is a double-edged sword. It can elevate an individual or bring about their downfall. I intend to wield this sword to carve out a path for Lin Hao. Under my direction, the post was disseminated by countless marketing accounts and bots, swiftly ascending the trending charts. Tags such as "the sister-saving demon" and "the pain of original families" ignited discussions across the internet. Numerous girls with similar experiences poured their hearts out in the comment section. I, Lin Wan, became their voice, my narrative serving as an outlet for their emotional turmoil. Naturally, many questioned and condemned the narrative, alleging it to be mere publicity for Howhan Entertainment's upcoming film. To this, I offered no response. On the eve of the trial, I granted an exclusive interview to a mainstream financial media outlet. Before the camera, I donned a simple black dress, devoid of makeup, my complexion pale and my eyes weary. I refrained from discussing my company or my career. Instead, I slowly recounted the day I broke Lin Hao's leg, when he, accompanied by others, forced me to sell my only sanctuary. My mind went blank. All I knew was that if I did not resist, they would devour me, skin and bones, leaving nothing behind. The baseball bat struck his leg, but it also struck my own heart. I shattered not only his leg but also the last vestige of illusion that connected me to that family. My voice remained calm, yet the camera lingered on my eyes for a full 10 seconds. Within them lay no hatred, no resentment, only a desolate, hopeless wasteland. This interview footage became the final straw that broke the camel's back. The entire internet fell silent. Those who had doubted and vilified me closed their mouths, for they saw the truth in my eyes, a truth more heart-wrenching than any anguished outcry. The trial proceeded as scheduled. The courtroom was packed, filled with media, the public, and the deceased's family. As a representative of the victim's family, I too occupied a seat in the audience. When Lin Hao was brought in, I scarcely recognized him. He had grown thin and dark, clad in prison garb, his hair shorn to a buzz cut. The arrogance and malice that once characterized his gaze had vanished, replaced by numbness and fear. Upon meeting my eyes, he instinctively recoiled. I understood that Brother Long's mentorship had proven effective. Gu Yan's defense was nothing short of a textbook performance. He did not dwell on the case's particulars, but focused instead on Lin Hao's upbringing and mental state. He summoned my parents, the tragic architects of this ordeal, to the stand. Under Gu Yan's incisive questioning, their antiquated belief that sons were paramount and daughters mere weeds was stripped bare, exposed for all to see. Their flustered and incoherent responses elicited waves of laughter and disdain from the audience. Subsequently, Gu Yan presented a lengthy psychological evaluation report compiled by a team of top-tier experts regarding Lin Hao. The report concluded that Lin Hao existed in a state of conflicting emotions, a pampered man-child juxtaposed with an unfulfilled aggressor. He lacked basic empathy and moral boundaries, exhibiting strong antisocial tendencies. This act of homicide was a culmination of his long-repressed violent impulses, exploding under specific provocation. In a profoundly moving closing statement, Gu Yan addressed the judges and jurors. Today, standing before you is not a remorseless murderer, but a tragic product of a distorted family upbringing and societal injustices. It was not merely the knife in Lin Hao's hand that killed Mr. Zhang Wei, but the invisible hand that indulged and coddled him, ultimately pushing him into the abyss. The law may adjudicate one's crimes, but it cannot judge the tragedies of an era. I implore the court to not only impose the appropriate punishment, but also to grant him an opportunity for redemption and a chance to re-examine this world. The courtroom fell into a profound silence. Even the vengeful gazes of the deceased's family wavered. I watched Gu Yan at the defense table, eloquently speaking as if enveloped in divine light, yet I felt no relief. I knew we had won, but I also recognized the ignoble nature of our victory. We had shackled public opinion with a meticulously woven lie, manipulating the very fabric of justice. Ultimately, the verdict was rendered. Lin Hao was sentenced to 15 years of imprisonment for the crime of intentional injury resulting in death, a number neither long nor short.
Ding.
Urgent mission. Save Lin Hao completed. Reward distribution in progress. Systems store opened. As I exited the courthouse, the sunlight was blinding. Gu Yan approached me. Mr. Lin, it has been a pleasure collaborating. Should you require anything in the future, do not hesitate to reach out. He handed me a business card, which I accepted without glancing at. Mr. Gu, I inquired, do you believe in retribution? He paused momentarily, then smiled. Mr. Lin, I only believe in the law. With that, he turned and entered a sleek black Bentley, vanishing into the flow of traffic. Watching his retreating figure, I suddenly felt that the most terrifying aspect of this world was not the cold system or Lin Hao's ignorant malevolence, but rather the elite malice embodied by Gu Yan, who could manipulate the dichotomy of right and wrong with ease. And I was slowly transforming into a person not unlike him. After Lin Hao was incarcerated, my life returned to a semblance of tranquility. Yet, my inner turmoil could no longer be quelled. The opening of the system store felt like a portal to a new world, one where everything was attainable through wealth, a virtual marketplace solely mine to explore. Gene Optimization Liquid. Basic enhances physical functions, boosts strength, speed, and endurance. Price: 100 million. Photographic Memory Capsule. Permanently enhances memory. Price: 500 million. Master level skill. Choose one, instantly acquire world-class expertise in painting, piano, or hacking. Price: 1 billion. Gazing at the shimmering products and the long string of zeros behind them, I felt a burgeoning desire for spending that transcended mere task completion. These were the things I truly desired, not merely cleaning up the mess left by a worthless individual. I began to expand my business empire with fervor. I needed vast sums of money and abundance. I not only aimed to fulfill the system's daily expenditure tasks, but I also sought to accumulate points to redeem these coveted items. Hauhan Entertainment transformed into an immense, unceasing money-printing machine, and I became its core, a soulless CPU. I engaged in acquisitions, mergers, investments, and public offerings. My name became synonymous with financial news, and my wealth ballooned to a terrifying figure beyond my own estimation. I also redeemed my first item, Gene Optimization Liquid, Basic. As I consumed the vial exuding a blue glow, I felt a warm, powerful force coursing through my limbs. My body underwent a dramatic transformation overnight. My energy became boundless. I could work for 72 hours straight without a hint of fatigue. My strength and speed surpassed those of professional athletes, and my senses sharpened to an extraordinary degree. I could hear the sound of a needle falling from 100 meters away. I was evolving towards something superhuman. This evolution brought me immense pleasure and a sense of security, yet it also ushered in a deeper loneliness. Standing atop the world, I looked down upon the masses, only to find myself utterly alone. No friends, no lovers, no family. My parents had severed all ties with me following the conclusion of Lin Hao's case. I have heard that they have relocated to a small town where no one knows them, living a life of seclusion sustained by a pension I provided for them. They, perhaps, harbor resentment towards me. And fear as well. This is for the best. Without ties, I can move more swiftly. Until that day, when I received a letter from prison. It was penned by Lin Hao. His handwriting was crooked, reminiscent of that of a primary school child. The content of the letter was simple. He mentioned that his birthday was approaching. He desired nothing but to see me. He claimed he had something very important to convey to me. I gazed at the letter, lost in silence for a long time. I was uncertain whether I should go. I could not fathom what Lin Hao, who had been nurtured by Long Go and had undergone 3 years of reformation in prison, had become. Even less did I know what he wished to tell me. Was it a belated confession? Or perhaps a deeper, more sinister scheme? Ultimately, I decided to meet Lin Hao. Not for any other reason, but because the system had issued a new task. Triggering special task, family bonds. Task requirement: fulfill Lin Hao's birthday wish and engage in a face-to-face conversation with him. Task reward: unlock level 2 permissions of the system. Again, this inescapable, overt ploy. I boarded a private plane and arrived at the high-security prison located in the northwestern Gobi Desert where Lin Hao was serving his sentence. The environment here was somewhat better than I had envisioned. Clean, orderly, yet suffocatingly lifeless. Accompanied by the warden, I entered the visitation room. Through a thick layer of bulletproof glass, I saw Lin Hao. He was clad in a blue and white prison uniform, seated across from me. He had indeed changed significantly. His skin was tanned, and his gaze, once muddled and arrogant, now bore a depth and tranquility I could not comprehend. There were new scars on his hands and face, indicating that the past 2 years had not been easy for him. Neither of us initiated conversation. We merely stared at each other through the glass, as if reintroducing ourselves to this stranger bound by our blood. You've come. Ultimately, it was he who shattered the silence. His voice was hoarse, as if he had not spoken in a long while. I have come. Are you well? He inquired. I nodded. And you? I am also well, he replied, forcing a smile that was more painful than a cry. Here, meals are provided and there is supervision. It's quite good. We fell into silence once more. This polite yet distant exchange felt absurd to me. You called me here just to ask that? I questioned. No, he shook his head. He lifted his gaze. For the first time meeting my eyes directly. There was no fear or resentment in his expression, only a solemnity I had never witnessed in him before. Lin Wan. He articulated carefully, I am sorry. My heart felt as though it had been gently struck by something. In the past, I was in the wrong. I was a bastard.
A beast.
I should not have treated you that way, nor my parents. During these 2 years here, I have reflected deeply. I remember how, when we were young, you worked 3 months washing dishes at a restaurant just to buy me a game console. I recall the time I got into trouble for injuring a classmate, and you knelt before their parents pleading for their forgiveness. I also remember the day you broke my leg. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. That day, you were absolutely right to do so. Had it not been for that blow, I might have perished in some nameless casino long ago. You woke me up. He took a deep breath and slowly bowed deeply before me. Thank you, sister. I looked at him, this nominal brother of mine, my heart a tumult of emotions. I could not determine the truth of his words. I was uncertain if this was a genuine confession or yet another elaborate performance. You called me here just to say this? Not entirely. He straightened up, wiping his eyes. I also want to share a secret with you. A secret regarding that system you possess. My pupils dilated sharply. How do you know? My voice turned icy in an instant. The system was my greatest secret. No one else could possibly know. Please do not panic. Lin Hao seemed to anticipate my reaction. He raised his hand to calm me. I do not wish to harm you. I intend to help you. 2 years ago, after I was taken by Long Ji's men, they employed various methods on me. A flicker of fear crossed Lin Hao's gaze. As I was on the brink of death, a voice echoed in my mind. It claimed to be the administrator of the supportive brother system. My mind buzzed. Administrator? What sort of entity is that, akin to a game master? It revealed that the system you possess is merely a subsystem. A testing version designed for experimentation, Lin Hao continued. Experimentation? What kind of experimentation? A human modification experiment. A bitter smile spread across Lin Hao's face. They aim to observe what happens when an ordinary person is endowed with boundless wealth while burdened by an unconditionally demanding parasite. Will they become lost in wealth, descending into depravity? Or will they, like you, uncover loopholes within the rules and manipulate them to transform that burden into their desired form? I was left speechless. I had never contemplated that the system which tormented me for over 2 years had such a purpose behind it. What else did the administrator say? I pressed. It stated that your performance has been exceptional, far surpassing their expectations, Lin Hao replied. You not only resisted the system's madness, but you also built a vast commercial empire. You even began to utilize the system's rewards to modify your own body. You are the most successful and the most dangerous among all test subjects. Lin Hao's expression grew grave. Therefore, they are preparing to conclude this experiment prematurely. What does that mean? My heart raced. It means they will reclaim you. They will issue you an ultimate task that you cannot possibly complete at the peak of your success and pride. Should you fail, they will retract everything they have granted you. Your wealth, your company, your abilities, even your life. And I, Lin Hao gestured to himself, as the only tool in this experiment, will be disposed of once it concludes. I felt a chill run through me. I finally understood. I had thought I was playing a game with the system, only to realize that I myself was a part of the game. A mere lab rat, observed and manipulated by entities of a higher dimension, ready to be discarded at any moment. Why are you telling me all this? I asked Lin Hao. Aren't you afraid of retribution from that administrator? I am afraid. Of course I am, Lin Hao chuckled, a smile imbued with a courage and fearlessness I had never seen before. But sister, these past 2 years, though I have lived like a dog, I have also come to understand. I owe you far too much, more than I could ever repay in this lifetime. You gave me this life. Now it is time for me to do something for you. The administrator informed me that the final task would be officially issued on my birthday, which is just a week away. It also revealed that there is only one method to break it. What method? I asked eagerly. Lin Hao gazed at me, his eyes softening with an unparalleled tenderness. He uttered his desire to escape the fate of being a burden to his sister. The sole solution lay in ensuring that there were no more brothers in this world. On the journey back from prison, my mind was a tempest of confusion. Lin Hao's words detonated like a bomb, obliterating the worldview I had painstakingly constructed over the past 2 years. To ensure that there are no more brothers in this world. What could this phrase possibly mean? Was it urging me to kill Lin Hao? Yet the system had clearly warned me that his demise would lead to my own erasure. This posed an insurmountable paradox. In the days that followed, I isolated myself in my office, shunning all visitors. I sought to procure items from the system's marketplace that might aid me in confronting the administrator. However, my efforts yielded nothing but disappointment. Although the marketplace boasted formidable items, they were merely rewards confined within the established rules. While I was set against the very architect of those rules, time slipped away moment by moment. Only one day remained until Lin Hao's birthday, and I had yet to discover any means of escape. Was I truly destined to await my fate?
No.
I, Lin Wan, have never been one to submit passively. Even in the face of death, I would drag the lofty administrator down with me. That night, I made a reckless decision. I reached out to Gu Yan, requesting him to draft a contract. What kind of contract? A share transfer agreement. I declared my intention to unconditionally transfer 100 of my shares in Haohan Entertainment to one individual. Who? Lin Hao. Gu Yan fell silent on the other end of the line. President Lin, have you lost your mind? He finally spoke. Do you have any idea what Haohan Entertainment's current market value is? It's a figure that would astound any nation. I am aware. You would give all of this to him? The brother you personally sent to prison?
Yes. Why?
There is no reason. I stared out at the starry sky and thought of it as my final birthday gift to him as a sister. Gu Yan ceased to dissuade me. He simply expedited the necessary procedures with remarkable efficiency. The following day, on Lin Hao's birthday, news erupted across the global financial markets. Mysterious business magnate Lin Wan announces retirement, bestowing all assets to her brother Lin Hao. The world went into a frenzy. Countless journalists swarmed outside my company, clamoring for interviews. Numerous business associates inundated my phone, eager to verify the truth of the announcement. I paid them no mind. I merely sat quietly in my office, awaiting the final judgment. At noon, the system's cold voice resonated in my mind as scheduled. Final task officially released. Task name, severing the bloodline. Task requirement, please, host, personally kill Lin Hao. Task deadline, 24 hours. Task failure, erasure. It had arrived. Indeed, the fatal task had come. I laughed, tears streaming down my face. I retrieved my phone and dialed the prison, a number I had only called once before. Please, relay a message to Lin Hao. Wish him a happy birthday. Also inform him that the gift I have bestowed is sufficient to ensure he remains imprisoned for life. This way, he would eternally be the safest of all. After hanging up, I stood and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. I gazed at the business empire I had built with my own hands. Farewell, my world. Task failure countdown. 10, 9, 8. I closed my eyes, awaiting the arrival of death. 3, 2, 1. Ding. Detected that host Lin Wan has transferred all assets to Lin Hao. Lin Hao's current assets have surpassed the system's established threshold. Judgment in progress. Judgment result. Lin Hao no longer meets the definition of a supported individual. He has become the new supporter. System binding relationship dissolved. Brotherly support system is now seeking a new host. Search successful. New host bound. Lin Hao. Matching new supported individual for the new host. Matching successful. Hello, new host Lin Hao. I am the brotherly support system. Please spend 100 billion to benefit your sister Lin Wan within 24 hours. Otherwise, erasure. I abruptly opened my eyes. I was still alive. My body had not been dismantled into data. My abilities remained intact. I looked outside. The sun continued to shine upon the city. Everything had remained unchanged, except for the cold system that had entangled me for over 2 years. It had vanished. In its place was an unprecedented sense of ease and freedom. I was truly free. I observed my reflection in the glass window. The woman staring back no longer bore the signs of exhaustion and numbness. Instead, there was a radiant glow of rebirth. I had won my gamble. I had wagered against the malevolent whims of the rule-making administrator conducting human experiments. I transformed Lin Hao from a burden into a capitalist wealthier than I. Thus, according to the logic of this game, the dynamic of power between us had reversed. I was no longer the supporter. I had become the one in need of support. Lin Hao had taken up the baton, becoming the new unfortunate soul. This was what Lin Hao had referred to as the only means of breaking the cycle. to ensure that there are no more brothers in this world. Not through physical annihilation, but by transcending him in status, transforming him from a brother in need of support into one who must support his sister. This was the most exquisite counterattack against this wretched system. I laughed, a genuine, heartfelt laugh. I envisioned Lin Hao's expression upon hearing the new system notification in prison. It must have been extraordinary. 100 billion. 24 hours. A prisoner sentenced to 15 years. Who required permission even to use the restroom. This was a truly insurmountable task. However, that was no longer my concern. My war had come to an end, while his atonement was just beginning. I picked up my phone and called my secretary. Book me a flight to the Maldives. Now, immediately. I would leave all company matters to the new President Lin to handle. After hanging up, I discarded my phone into the trash. I shed my expensive haute couture suit in favor of the simplest white t-shirt and jeans. I stepped out of the office that had both nurtured and imprisoned me for over 2 years. The sunlight enveloped me, warm and inviting. I squinted at the bustling world below that awaited me. I knew that from this day forward, I would no longer be Lin Wan, controlled by the system. I would simply be Lin Wan, a singular individual, at long last, capable of living for oneself. As for that dear brother of mine, who resides far beyond the horizon, I wish him fortuitous endeavors. After all, what is owed to me must eventually be repaid. Is it not so? The end of the narrative. Thank you for your attention. And until we meet again in the next tale.